Welcome to Tell Me About Your Bike, the podcast about the meaning of life, the universe, and bicycling. My name's Wesley Cheney. I'm your host, and today I'm talking to a trail builder. Tell me who you are, man. What you work on?
My name's Tracy Toler. I own a trail building company called Adventure Trail Systems, and we're based right out of here and based right out of Hurricane, West Virginia. Right now, we're on a trail system half a mile from my house, where I live in Nitro, that we've been working on. We started this phase of this Nitro project November 1st, and since November 1st, we've knocked out about 15 miles.
Wow.
Yep. So when we're all said and done, we're going to take a park that had about 4 miles, and we're going to be, right at about 20 miles.
Sweet.
Yep. Pretty exciting stuff to be half a mile from my house.
I know.
It's the easiest trail job I'm ever going to have, because usually I'm working much further away.
Now, what other parks have you worked on?
My first big job was I got to build a NICA, which is you'll probably hear me talk about NICA plenty, because if you're a NICA coach or involved with NICA, you're super excited about it, which I've been a NICA coach for, I guess this will be coming into my 6th year or something like that. But our West Virginia League we call it WVICL, but West Virginia Interscholastic Cycling League.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to build a race course at Twin Falls State Park Resort down in southern West Virginia that we actually, used as a race course for the NICA kids.
Wow.
It's about a 4.2 mile loop there.
Mm-hmm.
Super fun. And yeah, I've built kind of all over the state. Got a project I've been working on for a little bit now, and I'm up in PA at Ohio Powell State Park. I'm actually heading back up there in the spring. That'll be the 3rd or 4th time that I've been up there building. Great group of guys up there. Yeah, pretty much wherever.
Sweet. So tell me about building the trails at Rhino. When did you start?
So I moved to Nitro maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And I immediately just kind of got involved. And at that point, we had a gravel trail that ran behind the lake that was very nice and gravel and wide and great walking trail. But, this area is half a mile from my house. So clearly I was coming out on my mountain bike and stuff all the time. Right. And I was bored really quick, and I was like, man, there's potential here. So I drew up like a small little trail plan, and I walked it 100 times. And I made a proposal and went to city council and basically just asked for permission to build a half a mile section of trail that connected with the gravel loop. So then you kind of had like a 1 mile loop there. And I think they just thought I was crazy at first, because, had this whole presentation, and then it was kind of like, well, what are you asking for from us? And I was like, I'm not asking for money or anything. I was just asking for permission, Right. And they're like, you're just going to go out and do this? And I was, yeah. And so pretty much by myself, I went out and built this trail, and it was in the newspaper like 3 times. Everybody was so excited about it, way more excited than I thought they'd be. And that really just started to progress. And, me and my daughter and a couple friends started coming out here and building some small stuff. But at the time, we didn't have a lot of... the city only owned 60 acres at that point,
mm-hmm.
and 28 of that is the lake.
Okay.
So we were building on very little. So we built a few trails, and we got us up there, including the gravel trail. We got up to about 4 miles before this project, all just hand built, smaller size, single track. And then, like I said, I just got more community involved. And so I serve on like the CVB board, and we did have a Nitro Development Authority board. And basically I've gone to city council, for maybe 4 times now about different projects.
Right.
Which is, the city council here has always been amazing and supportive, because I think at this point they know if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it,
Right.
So I think getting that first initial project a success, it just really opened the door for all these other things. So I say we had because we just recently had a huge storm which actually dislodged our 2 boat type docks,
right?
Which we have to put back into place. But I ended up writing a grant for this lake property, land water conservation grant. I basically did all the legwork on it, decided what we needed, worked with different vendors to get prices, and then Kim Reed is basically the city planner now. She helped me with the grant, along with Laura Cox, who actually owns a grant writing business of her own. And they helped me get that all together. And of course, I had to go pitch it to city council because land water conservation, like a lot of grants, are match. It's a matching grant. So that meant the city had to be willing to pay half of it if we got the grant.
Right.
So they agreed to that, thought that would be great. We got the grant. That was $350,000 worth of improvements. It's a couple boat launches, as well as a big playground with a poured-in-place, like rubberized base, which they're really pricey, and that new big shelter that you saw down there. All that stuff was part of that project. And then, unfortunately, after we were approved from the grant, COVID happened. So that meant a lot of the prices really changed. And Land Water Conservation Fund was great because everybody was experiencing the same thing. We had all this stuff approved, but then, we were trying to cut a little here and cut a little there because the prices in some cases had doubled on things.
Right.
But we got that taken care of. And then that kind of brings us to the next step, which was there was a whole lot of property, like 300 acres, that was going to go up for sale that all connects into this lake. And there had been some talks about timbering it, which of course, would have made the lake totally worthless because it would have been a disaster. And I basically went to city council and, did a little bit of begging and pleading, and I had a good case, and I was really hoping this, and they couldn't have been more supportive. Everybody was in favor that, yes, we should buy the land. Let's make this happen. The mayor, made some phone calls, dealt with some real estate. We got it together, and we purchased 300 additional acres that, put us where we're at now, which is writing this other grant. This is for the trail system that we're sitting on today. That was also about a $350,000 land water conservation grant that I helped piece together, and then same ladies helped with write. And then, as a trail builder, I had to bid on it. So now I put in a ton of volunteer time here, more than anybody else by a landslide. But now I'm actually on a paid job. Got my whole real crew out here, and we're putting in major size modern mountain bike trails, flow trails, beginner trails, and actually we're trying to mix in and have all kinds of variety. There are some sections out here that are pretty gnarly and thin, and then we hand cut through some rock areas. So we really have a good mix of all different styles of riding.
I want to ask you about one of those rock areas.
Yeah.
So there's one where it kind of makes there's a hole in the rock.
Yeah.
And you can see where a lot of people have been striking, not making it through the challenge. How did you find that, and what went into your head when you were like, let's put this in the middle of the trail?
Well, so a lot of times, I'm a decently advanced rider, and we don't have a lot of technical stuff here at Ride An Hour. Most of it is easy. And so when you find those type of features that at first usually those features start out as impossible. Yeah. And so there's a really fine line between taking out enough rock, adding some dirt, to where you make it where it's a super challenge.
Yeah, it is a super challenge. I've never cleared it.
And some people may never clear it. Some people may only look at it and say, you guys are crazy. Hell no, I wouldn't even attempt that. And then other people make it look easy. Yeah. But you have to leave some things out there for advancement. Yeah. With me being a NICA coach, basically we're talking like 40 kids on this NICA team. These kids are amazing. And they are advancing so fast. And they grew up starting on a Strider bike. We have tons of kids on our team for the Putnam County team that if you ask them, hey, how'd you learn how to ride a bike? They're going to look at you with the weirdest look, because it would be like me asking you, how'd you learn how to walk? Right. You don't remember that, right? You were too tiny. That's them with a Strider bike. Yeah. So,
that's the way my son was.
Yeah, we have kids that were on a Strider bike and really could barely walk, and then were pedaling by the time they were 2 years old. They have no memory of ever learning how to ride a bike, and those kids are rippers. we have 6, 7-year-old kids that come out that are younger siblings of kids on our team that have literally been riding a pedal bike since they were 2 years old. These are kids that are 7 years old and have 5 years of mountain biking experience.
Right. Sweetness. Oh, that's so exciting to hear. All right, let's see what the next question was. All right, thanks. So, let's see. So, how big are the work crews?
So let me think. I've got John, Josh, Steve, Julia, Andy, myself. So there's 6 of us. A couple of those people are very part-time, working like 25, 30 hours a week, whereas a couple of us work, 40, 50 hours a week building trail. So it's a great crew, very diverse. I'm super happy about the crew we have together. We kind of all have our strengths, which is great because certain people do different stuff. And honestly, it gives my business like a lot of value added because it's not just me all the time. We've got a few guys that totally have built hand-built stuff forever and are really good riders, and sometimes like totally just turn them loose. And then that stuff has a whole different flavor, which is what you want. You want diversity. That's why we're out here building North Shore features, in West Virginia, because it's got diversity.
All right. What is the process of building a trail?
The process of building a trail, I would say, pretty much starts with a dream, a vision, and some land. And then from there, things can get complicated if you, first of all, permission. I'm not a fan of like vigilante trails because sometimes that messes you up for the future, and it can also just give mountain bikers a bad name. We shouldn't be out there building trails on land that's not ours. So really, you just have to have that access. And then as a professional trail builder, there is so much planning and walking and mapping on the computer to get the most out of your land. Like, I feel pressure to get the most out of the land. You know what I mean? Like, having the land and a resource and someone that's willing to let you go out there and build trails, I don't take that lightheartedly. I want to get something really good out of it and get the most use out of the land. And I don't know, I think the whole trail building thing, usually because I am such a cyclist, I'm always trying to build bike specific stuff because clearly West Virginia has a ton of hiking trails and a lot of what we ride are hiking trails. Yeah. I like to specialize in building bike specific stuff that's flowy and modern. And for me, it's really just about getting people out there in nature. That's like one of my favorite things about the whole process is like, without trails, there aren't very many people that just go out and stumble around through the woods like I do, Right. But trails give people that access to just get back to nature and get out and clear your head from, our crazy society and your cell phone and everything else. Just get out and get unconnected from all that and get connected with nature. As far as the actual building process, man, once you get through the mapping and you're 100% certain, you have to have the funding, and then you have to have the equipment and the time and the plan even just to get equipment in and out. We build with smaller size excavators and a little mini skid steer, and there's everything's kind of scaled down size equipment. And it takes a lot of knowledge. A lot of guys that run equipment are used to running equipment and are really good at making things level and making things straight, and they're usually working in wide open spaces. Out here, we're building trail, and we're really not trying to get off the trail too much, so that way there's less impact through the woods. Right. But man, you have to pay attention because there's just trees everywhere all around you. We're not trying to tear up any more trees than we have to, and we don't really want anything flat or level or anything. It's all about grade and making sure that's how you get a sustainable trail, is that all the drainage works. And that you can go back later and work on that by hand if you have to. That's why you have so many grade reversals. If you are going to have water, you don't want it for hundreds of feet. You want it in one spot. Right.
So when is it too wet to ride?
Man, a lot of people in West Virginia are not that great about judging that, or they just go out there because we don't have a ton of people. You
Right.
know, our trail systems aren't abused like they are in say, Asheville or out in Colorado, where they're getting thousands of users on every piece of trail a
Right.
day. We probably have local trails that are great trails that have never seen 1,000 different users.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's a totally different thing. I think, honestly, if your tires are picking up mud, it's too muddy. You're
Yeah.
probably doing damage. And that's kind of the way that I judge. And if you're not willing to come out and do some volunteer trail work, then you definitely shouldn't do it, because some people go behind you and clean that stuff up, because, putting too deep a ruts just holds water.
Right.
It's a bad thing. And it's really important to make trails that are good enough and fun enough for the trail runners and hikers. And I try to encourage that, even though I build bike-specific trails.
Mm-hmm.
Tons of trail runner friends. Man, trail runners and mountain biking is a good mix, because their feet treat the ground much different. You know, they can help us eliminate some of the ruts that may be caused from our mountain bikes, and vice versa. The bike wheels make stuff a much more flat, polished, smooth surface for them to run. So the combination is really key. Easy. Just honestly, I'm happy anytime I'm on my bike and riding a trail. But man, when it's a trail that you built and you're going out with a bunch of young people,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody's enjoying it, I mean, that is what I live for. I mean, definitely, you go buy this stuff way quicker than it is to build. I mean, sometimes we may be in one area for a month, knocking out only half a mile or a mile of trail. And we got young kids and stuff that go out and rip that up in like 7-8 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But man, when I'm out there riding with them, that is a blissful 7 or 8 minutes.
All right. What makes a good trail?
Well, I like trails that are very organic and look like they belong there. I also like a trail that's got good flow to it, that's not beating you up too bad. I like to try to keep everything I build down to about 100 feet elevation gain per mile.
Yeah.
You start going much over that, you feel like, man, you're just going uphill the whole time. It's not very flowy. But really, it's all about drainage, and that's what makes it sustainable. I mean, a good trail is sustainable. A bad trail is not. And you see a lot of young people or a lot of amateurs build a lot of fall line and just straight down trails, and you're like, well, okay, cool. I mean, it's cool right now, but next year this thing's going to be almost unrideable. A couple years from now, it's going to be so eroded, you're going to be building something somewhere else. That's not the type of trails we want to build.
Mm-hmm. What makes a good trail feature?
Oh, that is a good one. And that's a lot of what I was explaining to you when you first came out here, is I think good trail features should fit a pretty wide range.
Mm-hmm.
So, let's just take a jump as an example. Gap jumps are really, that's for bragging. Like, when you're in the air, you're in the air.
Yeah.
So a tabletop can be just as much fun as a gap jump. You don't have to have gap jumps. And then a lot of times we build stuff in very much a wedge fashion. So like, if you're not a very good jumper, maybe one side's lower than a higher side. And I'd say just good variety for all types of trail users, and not just one specific top 5%.
All right. I like that. Okay, what's your favorite bike?
Oh, my favorite bike. I had a Diamondback Super Streak when I was a teen, BMX bike that I really totally loved. Worked on that thing all the time. Now I have 15 bikes at the house, I think. So a favorite is tough, because you different bikes for different things.
Yeah.
Right now I'm riding an Orbea.
Okay.
It's the OAS, which is like their cross country bike. It's more of like a down country.
Hardtail, softtail?
Softtail, 120.
Okay.
It's a super poppy bike.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. Really, like, just wants to jump and wants to be playful.
Right.
But the suspension on it just works beautifully. Actually, it came with a 2-step lockout on it, and I actually ended up removing it because, I mean, I'm 50 years old. You know what I mean? Like, I like a little cush all the time, and I don't really ride on the road or anything very often.
Right.
And the geometry on the bike, it doesn't pedal bob very much, so I went to a trail system with my daughter, and we rode 25 miles that day. And I told her, I said, I'm just going to leave it wide open the whole day. I'm not messing with the lockout because I just am done with too many cables. Like,
Right.
you know, it takes 2-step lockout, you know, cable for the front and the rear. It's like just all these extra cables. So yeah, I ended up removing the lockout completely, and I just ride it open all the time. But you know, I've got a Kona hardtail that I really like too, that I keep flat pedals on. I saw some of your questions before.
Yeah.
So, you know, I ride clipped in, but I also spent most of my life riding flat pedals.
Right.
And I'm really fine either way. And I
Yeah.
do enjoy being clipped in, especially on the flowier stuff, because when you're hitting a lot of small jumps and everything, you're just connected to the bike.
Yeah.
No chance of spinning a pedal around in midair, floating off your pedals. But I actually broke my back in a mountain bike race this past season. And so when I got back to riding, I was riding with our very beginner small kids, and I was riding a hardtail with flat pedals on it. And, you know, there's a little bit of extra safety riding flat pedals, which I knew I probably needed after that.
Yeah. When was the last time you rode?
Oh, man, it's probably was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. It's been wet
It's
and cold.
I'm a fair weather rider. I hate to admit it. I am not a fair weather trail worker. I mean, we work all the time when we can, and I'm out here in like all temperatures. But coming to the bikes, I don't want it to be muddy and a mess. But I ride the trainer. I mean, you know, I've got a trainer set up all the time, and I try to get on it in the winter a couple times a week, which I don't ride at all in the summertime.
Yeah.
But in the winter, sometimes I ride more just because I don't get the trail build. I'm at home. I totally get on the trainer. So I think I rode 26, 27 miles on the trainer yesterday.
All right. Let's see. Do you name your bikes?
I do not name my bikes.
Okay. I don't either. I refer to them by their make. Like, that's my Trek. That's my Surly.
Yeah.
That's my Raleigh.
Right now, the bikes that I ride the most are like I've got an Orbea, a Kona, a Cannondale, a Scott, a Specialized. You know, I mean, and I just call them by that.
Yeah.
We have a lot of kids and a lot of people on our Putnam County Peddlers team that totally name their bikes, and I get a kick out of it. You know what I mean? My daughter actually names her bikes. So like the bike that she started racing on was a Scott, and that was Beyonce. And like even though she's outgrown Beyonce a little bit, we fight over all the time. Like, you really need to sell Beyonce, and she's like, I'm never selling Beyonce. That was my first bike, you know. So yeah, she totally names hers.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Index or friction?
So my Orbea, I'm actually like electronic.
Okay.
But I mean friction just doesn't really exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
My first race bike was a Trek 8300, which was like, I saved up so much grass cutting money to buy that thing, because it was like carbon front tubes lugged together with aluminum, and it had Suntour XC Pro shifters on it, which were awesome because they were index or friction, and you could just flip the switch and have it dialed in whichever way you wanted. And I actually still have the shifters at the house because I upgraded it at some point, and I was like, I'm keeping these things. Like, I knew it'd be nostalgic at some point.
Yeah. All right. Another easy one. Rim or disc?
Oh, the disc, 100%.
Yeah.
Rim brakes are horrible. I mean, we didn't think they were horrible at the time, but now that we have an alternative, they're horrible.
Okay, mechanical or hydraulic?
I do hydraulic. I don't think there's anything wrong with mechanical, though. Yeah. I mean,
do you notice a performance difference between the two of them?
I mean, there's a feel difference.
Yeah.
I mean, in your hands. Stopping wise, no.
Yeah.
But in your hands, you can totally feel. And actually, I prefer Shimano brakes, but I do have set of Maguras on one of my bikes, and they feel really nice. But you have to get used to them, you know. Yeah. Swapping bikes all the time is kind of tough, you know.
Yeah, I just built up a touring bike, and I put mechanical disc brakes on it because I wanted to be able to adjust the cable if I needed to.
Yeah.
And I just, if I'm in the middle of West Virginia on the side of the road, and I don't have access to a shop.
Yeah. Definitely nothing wrong with
hydraulic tools. Yeah. So and I went with friction shifters too because it was it was a more reliable choice for a 3x9. So
Yeah, we have come a little too far with the drivetrains, in my opinion. Like 12 gears in the back, it's like it's really hard to have a bike. They just don't stay tuned as long. I don't feel like there's just so little margin for error. I mean, it's nice. They feel good when they're running, but there's a lot of shifting issues. I think we've gone as far as we need to go.
1x12 or 3x9?
1x12.
All right.
But honestly, my preference is probably like 1x10 or 1x11.
Yeah, that's what I run, is a 1x11.
Yeah.
Because I'm such a big guy that the chains just don't last.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
and
I
they're
see that.
freaking expensive. All right, tube or tubeless?
Oh, tubeless. Definitely tubeless. I mean, mountain bikers, every bike that I own has tons of little wet spots all over the tire sitting in your garage. And when you see all those, you're like, yep, any one of those could have been just a small briar and had me like changing a tube out on the trail. Yet my tires got hundreds in it and I'm fine.
Yeah.
So, no, definitely. It's funny, being a coach, you go out with all these kids. Usually the kids, they get flats and then you're stuck out there changing a tube and then maybe they don't have a tube. And they always get that lecture from us like, you're not tubeless? Why aren't you tubeless? It's just so much faster.
Yeah, I finally switched over. I hadn't been planning on it. And I brought my mountain bike in for work and I'd just been running tubes on it and forever and ever. And they switched me out to tubeless and I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll try it. And I loved it. It's been good.
Yeah, I don't even carry a tube unless I'm doing like way out rides. Because for the most part, I carry so many bacon strips and different types of patches and have gotten pretty inventive about doing things. And now they also have those darts that'll fill a little bit bigger hole.
Yeah.
And I just don't really see the need. If I'm going way out and I know that like I wouldn't want to walk out, maybe I'll carry a tube. But for the most part, no, I don't even carry a tube anymore.
All right. Hardtail or softtail?
I think it's pretty proven that full suspension is where it's at.
Yeah.
From a racing type perspective, we don't want a ton of travel. But really, I think in that 100 to 130 millimeters of travel, front or rear, is really just the sweet spot of like a do anything type bike or a bike that's still faster. I feel like having some suspension is faster. I know a hardtail, you definitely get a ton of energy out of it, but you may lose some in the chatter. You may lose some grip that suspension can hook you back up.
Yep.
And I've seen some tests where guys like really go through the paces with super similar bikes with like rigid. And what's funny is a lot of times the user experience is you'll feel like you are going faster on the rigid,
right?
Because it's really just beating the crap out of you. You don't feel like you're going as fast on the, but if you actually are measuring the time that you do segments of trail, I think it's pretty much a proven that suspension is a good thing.
Okay. All right. Final question for you. What, as a trail builder, do you want riders to know?
Oh, honestly, get out there and volunteer and do trail work, help with trail maintenance and all that type of stuff. If you ride and you're interested in the sport, become interested in that part too.
Yeah.
It's just we work really hard building new trails, but we don't have to always be building new trails. You can improve trails and you can maintenance trails and you can do all those things. I know it doesn't seem as glamorous, but trust me, we all love you for it. Like, it is glamorous. Like, those are the people that keep us riding. I always like to go out and do trail maintenance. Like, I hate it when all these trees fall, and I hate it anytime a big tree falls, but like, you just get out there and take care of it, because I'd rather cut everything out because I know new trees are going to fall. Like, a lot of people get hung up with, and they're like, well, why'd you take that out? I'd like riding over that tree. And I'm like, trust me, another one's going to fall. I try to keep them cleaned out. Now, sometimes we keep stuff, because it is good training for people. And so,
I like a lug.
Yeah, I do too.
I like it. I like it when it's approachable enough that and it's not higher than the hub of my wheel.
Yeah, no, I like a log too. And, there's a lot of teachable experiences, especially being a mountain bike coach with kids about how to ride over a log, because clearly it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you don't want it to slow you down. You'd like to be able to get over a decent sized log. But it can be a lot of wear and tear on the bike, and people get hurt and everything else, and trees are falling all the time. I mean, when you work in the woods like I do every day, it's crazy how many trees fall all the time. Just other people pick them up sometimes. You're not always the one. I mean, I can't tell how many times I've been out in the woods and seen massive trees go down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it just happened. So.
All right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate the talk.
Was that enough?
That was enough. That was good.